Well, g'day, Nigel here, and I'm very excited to be announcing our May 2020 Sax School Legend. Now, the Legend program is really important to us in Sax School because it's our way of really celebrating a member of our saxophone community who's making great progress on their saxophone, but also they're really inspiring the other students. And I think that, being part of our community, inspiring other members is a really important part of everything that we do with Sax School. So for May 2020, I'm really excited to announce a brand new legend, and it's Mike Albro from Florida. How are you doing, Mike?
I'm well, Nigel. Thank you for asking. How about yourself?
Oh, well, I'm always doing well. Congratulations. It's really great to see all the progress that you're having with your saxophone.
Well, thank you very, very much. I'm honored.
So tell me a bit about you. I'm really curious to have a bit of a chat with you, Mike, because you are our legend in May, but actually you only joined Sax School in February, I think.
Right.
And am I right in thinking that you actually only started playing saxophone maybe Christmas time?
Right. I got the sax for Christmas, a Christmas present for my wife.
Oh, wow, cool. But you've been playing music in the past, right? So you've done a bit of music before this?
Started out drumming, did that for about 17 years, then picked up the guitar and then played bass. So all of the music I've learned are in some of the best garages in the suburbs.
Fantastic. Wow. So you've been doing that for a while. So what sort of music were you playing when you were playing bass and drums and guitar? What style of music?
Well, we started out in the 60s, and it was just Beatles, Stones, and we progressed. And then when we got into grunge and things like that, I sort of checked out. Just because of my age-related problem with some of that kind of music. And then in my ministry, I began leading worship in the streets and things like that. So I was playing a lot of Christian music. But I've always loved the saxophone. I had 6 lessons in 1990 until my sax teacher moved back to California. And we needed a drummer in the church. So I sold my saxes. I had 2 Yamahas, an alto and a soprano, and sold them, saved some money, and bought a drum kit. And I haven't picked up a sax until this Christmas.
Wow. Wow. That's really interesting. Actually, doing a lot of music in the background, I think it always helps when you do change to a new interesting instrument. Sometimes it's a bit more frustrating, though, because you kind of want to move ahead faster. But all of the rhythmic background and just the sort of general musical awareness, it transfers over. And I know a lot of Sax School members play another instrument or have played another instrument in the past. So that's, I'm sure that's really helping you. Well, I bet it was exciting, though, changing to saxophone. So you got a saxophone for Christmas.
Right.
How have you found the learning process?
Well, I have been very, very encouraged. I was fishing around looking for private lessons and stuff. And Vero Beach, where I live, is pretty small. I think there's like 1.5 sax teachers. And so I didn't think that was going to be the path I was going to take. But I picked up on a couple of your videos, and I said, well, why not? It says Sax School, and I need to be a student of the instrument. So I went ahead, and you made an offer. I bid, and I just loved the structure. And I love the starting points that you have for different people with different skill levels. And it's been a really, really very formative for me. I spend my first 30 minutes on your 5-minute pentatonic workout. So,
yeah, you mentioned that in one of your messages. So you really find that the 5-minute workout is helping you a lot.
Absolutely. I'm up to exercise number 10, and I can do 1 through 9. Passively, and my fingers, they haven't made macrame yet. So I'm enjoying it.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. And actually, the videos that you've been sharing in the community have been great too. So the Golf Mipanema, actually, that's quite advanced for somebody that's only been playing for a little while. That's quite an advanced tune, particularly the middle section. Did you find that challenging to learn?
Actually, it was moving up from the B to that B flat on the bis. Yeah, I stumbled through that a couple times, but I don't know. My fingers like the horn. I don't have guitar playing fingers. I have little Vienna cocktail Frank hands, and so sax is just perfect for these little stubs. found very helpful is I have finally figured it out, is I'm listening to other saxophonists probably as much in time as I am practicing the saxophone, because I figured it out. You've been talking about developing a sound with intonation and things like that. And I said, well, how do I know what sound I want to make if I don't know what that sound is? And so I've been learning from other saxophonists, the Causes and the Sanborns and Grace Kelly and the Master Class, Chad JB. So I've been listening to a lot of saxophonists and trying to find out the sound I like and want to aspire to. So now I have a frame of reference for where I am and where I go. And
yeah, that's great. Yeah, really, really important that, because yeah, like you say, once you've got an idea of the sound that you're aiming for, it's so much easier to get there. And you can think about that every single time that you're picking up your saxophone. So do you really like that? I mean, you mentioned quite a few different players there, different styles. I mean, Chad's very different to Cos. Cos is inspired by Sanborn. So those guys are kind of similar, but Grace Kelly's more of a, coming from a more of a bebop background, believe it or not. So what's your favorite sort of sound? If you could sound like one player, who would that be?
Oh my gosh. I don't know. Believe it or not, I really like Candy Dulfer.
Nothing wrong with Candy. Candy's fantastic.
Yeah, I really like, she's pretty hip.
She's pretty hip. And what's interesting about Candy Dulfer is, I remember when I first heard her, like, I guess it was the late 80s, early 90s or something. And she was a massive David Sanborn fan. So, when she was 19, 20, 21, that was who she was really trying to sound like. But then she sort of changed as she got older, and she's really a Maceo Parker fan now. And then she's done lots of stuff with Maceo Parker. I don't know if you know about Maceo Parker. He was James Brown's band leader for a long time. And he's got a very definite kind of sound, and you hear a lot of that in Candy Dulfer's playing now. So I think it's quite interesting how, as an artist herself, she has evolved by, the inspiration is, her focus is changing, because obviously that's caught her ear, and she spent a lot of time touring and playing with him. I talked with her a while back, I did an interview with her, and she was talking about all the inspiration that she gets from Maceo Parker. So I just think that's interesting from our point of view, when we're listening to her and getting it sort of third hand, to think that she also goes through the same process that we go through. And in fact, when I spoke to Dave Cos, he said the same thing about his process of finding a sound by listening to David Sanborn and then finally meeting him, and now calling David Sanborn a friend and hanging out with him all the time. So yeah, it's such an important part of your process.
So think about the position you're in, because if I ever get good on this thing, I'm going to blame you for anything I've learned here.
Tell me about what your goal is with your playing then, because you're a busy guy. I mean, you haven't really mentioned it, but, well, you mentioned that you were a minister, so you've got all of that in your background, but you're also a scuba diver, you're a Harley rider, you're a busy guy with lots of exciting things in your life. So
done yet.
Good on you. That's what I like to hear. So in amongst all of these other crazy things that you're doing, have you got some musical goals that you have got in mind for your saxophone?
Well, at this particular point, I'm getting to know this instrument and really feel comfortable when I pick it up. It just feels like it's natural in my hands. And so I'm really at the rudimentary stages of getting all the basics. I need to learn to play slow, even though in my head I want to play like David Sanborn and Dave Koz and Kenny G. And then I sit there and wrestle with, I'm 72. If the actuarials are right, I've got a long way to go to Carnegie Hall. They say practice, practice, practice. So the thing is that I want to keep everything in a framework of knowing how old I am, my skill level, and not wanting to go anywhere with it. I'm just enjoying making music.
Good for you. Now there's nothing wrong with that at all. I think that's fantastic. And I think within the community of Sax School, the great thing is that you can have a goal of, like you've been doing already, where you're learning a tune and then making a video of it and then sharing it with that community, because that is a performance. And there's nothing wrong with that being the performance goal that you're working towards. So I think that's fantastic. Awesome. So we have loads of other members who are joining in a similar situation to, probably not all doing all those crazy things as well that you're doing, but you know, where they're starting saxophone now. And I know a lot of people would love to know how you have managed to make progress so quickly. So maybe if you've got any tips for new people who are just starting with Sax School, picking up the saxophone and thinking, I want to sound like Mike, how can I get there quickly?
Well, the first thing I would say is that 30-day challenge is not a gimmick at Sax School. That's where I really started saying, okay, I'm going to start at the bottom and see where I go from there. And that 30-day challenge really started to make it more regimented for me. I said, I'm going to do this. And I tried to practice from 1 to 2 hours every day since I'm retired. And then, of course, the pandemic we've got going on. I think a lot of us have some extra time.
Yeah.
And so I said, I'm going to do this. And at the end of 30 days, see where I'm at. And I did see some progress that was measurable from the first time to the 30th day. And I would encourage people, take that challenge, because the progress you make in those 30 days is actually measurable.
There you
And
go. Fantastic.
that's very encouraging. I think there was an interview with Mariah Carey years ago, and the interviewer was saying, you know, you receive so many accolades. How do you balance all of the accolades you receive with your ego? And she says, the problem isn't with all the people who are patting me on the back. It's the 1 or 2 people who criticize me. I always remember them. And so to me, with the posts and the video, I'm not in a place right now where I can teach, but I am in a place where I can encourage, because that goes a long way. And when people start believing in themselves, they're not so critical. When other people saying, I hear what you're playing, and that's really good. And so I don't know. I think that the official Sax School, where we can post videos and encourage one another, is very helpful.
Yeah, cool. Brilliant to hear that, Mike. Well, it's obviously working for you. And I think that's great advice for everybody else watching too, who aspire to get off to a really good start with their saxophone. So 30-day challenge, putting in plenty of hours and working toward sharing some videos and also encouraging other people, which is fantastic. That's why we chose you as our legend for May. So well done, Mike. We'll be watching you closely about the other videos that you're sharing and about the progress that you'll be making too. So I'm sure we'll be seeing lots of great things coming up.
We'll hope.